Yeah, we're live. There we go. I can share it. Alrighty. Um, all right, we got somebody on. I swear, sometimes sharing it out, it's like difficult to figure out who's what, where. All right, hi everybody. Hi Michelle. Tonight we have Ronnie D. From Old South Pittsburgh Hospital. Um, and we are going to speak with him tonight about the different. Actually, he's got two new locations now. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us what locations you have?
Hey everybody, my name is Ronnie. I've been in the paranormal for about 18, almost 19 years now. Kind of fell in love with of doing this. It's a great industry to be part of. Also, really love the history. The history is what really gets me in some of these old locations. The old craftsmanship that went into the buildings, and then just the past that the buildings have had, and the history that goes along with it. Really got involved in it. Like I said, love the paranormal, but really love the history, and really love the people that I've been in contact with, who helped me out, who help us do the buildings and all this stuff. And yeah, so I own the Haunted Old South Pittsburgh Hospital, which is in South Pittsburgh, Tennessee. And then we just purchased our second hospital, which is Old Harriman Hospital. It's Old Historic Harriman Hospital on Facebook, and that is located in Harriman, Tennessee. They're about an hour and 45 minutes from each other. South Pittsburgh, Tennessee is about 33 miles west of Chattanooga, right on the Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee line. And then Harriman is about 33 miles west of Knoxville. So it seems that we kind of went with that 30-mile span from one major metropolitan area to the other. Both buildings were built in about the 30s. I think one of them was built in 38, the other one was built in 39. But both of them are extremely active, and I'm recognizing some of your fans on here, like Eddie and Chloe and Crystal, and yeah. So we got some great people that follow you. I see.
Yes, we got quite a few people. We got Michelle, Mort, Darren, Crystal, and Darren. My eye's still yucky. It's probably allergies at this point. Um, Crystal and is it Chloe? I think I'm saying that right. She said, I made it. Thank you for making it. Hi, Peggy. Hi, Eddie. Hi, everybody. I can't see my screen. I think Peggy just gave us stars. She did something.
That's kind of cool the way the light's coming in on from the windows.
Oh, yeah. You look like you have a spirit behind you.
Well, you never know. You never know, right?
You never know. Yeah. So what got you into the paranormal?
To be really honest with you, kind of silly. I think a lot of us did this, but popular TV shows. You watch them on TV, and you watch some of these guys running through buildings in the middle of the night, and you listen to them get an EVP, or you see them get something, and you're like, no way. So you have to go out and try it yourself. And
Right.
So that's basically what I did. We assembled a group of people. I'm originally from the Chicagoland area. So we kind of assembled a group of people who all were like-minded, got in the car and started traveling to different locations, and really fell in love with it. Met a lot of people in the paranormal who I really enjoyed their company and their friendship, and just started investigating. Actually fell in love with it so much I went out and bought a building. Yeah, it's like I said, there's some really great people in the paranormal, and it's kind of one of those hobbies or interests that you never really get bored of, because there's always something new that happens.
Yeah.
And, just when you think you've seen it all, something else happens.
Right.
So it's really
Right. Yeah, I've only been in it for 2 years now. Yeah, 2 years, 2.5 years. So, but I mean, I've experienced stuff all my life, but actually going into the haunted buildings, it's kind of, funny, because like you said, you get new experiences. And then it's funny when people say stuff like that's not into the paranormal, and they're like, what was that? Like for instance, today my boss said ghost milk. I thought she said ghost milk, and I was like, what's ghost milk? And she said goat's milk.
Oh.
So I thought she said ghost milk, and I was like, are there ghosts, breastfeeding now? I don't know. I like it totally just, I thought she said ghost. So, you think you hear things too.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a fun part too. And yeah, it was kind of funny. But anyways, so what has been your favorite experience along the way? Because you've been in it for a while.
Oh, I think unfortunately there's too many to mention. I mean, when you're doing this for as long as some of us have, it kind of, it's hard really to pinpoint one specific thing. I know that being a building owner and now owning two buildings, the experiences that we have on a daily basis are just amazing. I think the thing that's the funniest, and probably the thing that I don't know, I guess would be probably my biggest experience or funnest experience, is when we do a public investigation at either one of the locations, and you have this guy walk in the door who's, he's like 6'5", weighs 260 pounds, and he's all tattooed up, and his little wife is, like 100 pounds, and they walk through the door, and he's like, there's no such thing as ghosts. And they come in with this attitude like, oh yeah, I'm just here because my wife believes in this, and she's got a crush on, somebody on the TV show. And so here I am experiencing this. And the event starts, and we get into it, and they're walking through the building, and all of a sudden that guy gets touched, and he looks around like, what the hell was that? And then somebody whisper into his ear or something that, that's just, that he just can't explain happens to him. And generally they're the first ones out the door, sitting in the car for the rest of the night. And I couldn't tell you how many times that's happened at Old South Pittsburgh Hospital, where, we've had a public investigation. And like I said, there's this big burly guy who looks like he just got off the nicest Harley on the block. And, I wouldn't mess with them. If you seen him in a dark alley, you'd walk on the other side of the alley from him. And they walk in with kind of this attitude, like there's no such thing as ghosts. And they go sit out in the car. We had one a couple of months ago where he pretty much fit that image, and he walked in the door and had that chip on his shoulder, and something pulled his hair so hard that his head jerked back. Oh. And I remember he walks out the door, and we always have somebody at the front door for safety reasons. But so he walks, to the front door. He's like, "We're like, you're leaving already?" He's like, "Yep, I've seen enough. I believe now." His wife spent the rest of the evening till 2:00 in the morning doing the investigation, and he's sitting in the car the rest of the night. And I thought it was really funny. And I think that's one of the coolest things as a paranormal investigator and a building owner, is getting somebody to realize that maybe there's more to life than what we really know about, and maybe that there are spirits, that we interact with on a daily basis and we don't even know it.
Oh, for sure.
It's really, really neat. And Eddie, I want to thank him a lot, because Eddie has come to the hospital a few times, and he's seen the transformation, and I can't thank my volunteers enough. We've got about 35 volunteers on staff in both locations. And when I bought the hospital Old South Pittsburgh, it was in really bad shape. We as a collective team removed about 100 tons of garbage out of that building.
Wow.
Of just really, really bad stuff. And so it's really nice. It's really nice to have a great team, and it's nice to have people like Eddie and Greg and so many other people who support our buildings and keep coming back. And one thing that we do at Old South Pittsburgh and at Harriman is we want to kind of take the experience to another level. There's two types of places that you go to. One that people walk into and like, oh my God, it's creepy. And those are generally the places where, the buildings are in pretty bad shape. Mm-hmm. We're completely the opposite. You walk into our buildings and they're clean. It's just a whole different atmosphere, and they're still very haunted. And we kind of give that other end of the experience, where you're not walking into a creepy building per se, but you're walking into a hospital that looks like, really, if we opened it tomorrow, we could have surgeons running around cutting people up. So it's really kind of neat. And I think our volunteers really, really do a lot of that work. And like Eddie said, it is probably one of the most active locations that I've ever been into. And I know I'm a little biased because I am the owner. But it is a location that never disappoints. And that's what we were talking about before, Hollywood. The show was that it's neat because being a building owner, we get to experience a lot of things that a lot of people don't because we're in the building so often. I
Right,
mean, we're in
right,
there so much, and we're getting things that a lot of people don't because we're the spirits are comfortable with us, the
right.
location's comfortable with us. So yeah, so my volunteers and myself, I mean, the experiences that we have, you know, whether they're spirits or whether it's another universe or whatever is going on in there, I don't know. But it's amazing, and I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that there is something active going on, not only in my location but all across the world in terms of spirits and ghosts and whatever we're doing. It's like I said, it's really really neat. And Ken, you need to come down. We have 2 locations that are an hour and 45 minutes apart from each other. So if you're making that trip all the way from Michigan, we can make it a whole weekend deal now.
Oh yeah, he's
And that
on.
was one of the things.
He's on my team, so.
Bring Holly with you.
Oh, I'd bring my whole team. If we're going, I'm bringing my whole team. And we would probably do both locations because it's just like if you go like next weekend. Eddie said we got some shenanigans going on next weekend. We're going with him to Hinsdale and Wildwood, so like they're only half an hour away from each other. So yeah, you have to do those in one weekend.
Right. Well, see, that was one of the things too, coming from Chicago, because in the middle of winter, us snowbirds like to come south, and we like to do ghost hunt when it's nicer, or paranormal investigation
Right.
down south. But one of the things that was really hard is when you're driving 8 or 9 hours and you only have one location to turn around and go back 8 or 9 hours.
Right.
It's not as much fun. So
Right.
now we have 2 locations, and when the Northerners come down, we can set them up at one location. There's a really nice bed and breakfast or Airbnb, which is right pretty much in the backyard of OSPH. She charges like $80 a night. So after
that's not bad.
Yeah, really cheap. So after
Right.
you're done with your investigation Friday night at OSPH, you can rest over at her Airbnb, and then you can head over to Harriman, which is about an hour and 45 minutes away. There's another Airbnb, which is right in our backyard there too. I think he charges $70 a night. So I mean, you're pretty economical. I mean, the only thing if gas prices would go down a little, all a break.
Right.
In terms of that, it's really nice because you can make a whole weekend out of it, and that's what's really really nice.
Right.
Like
now, what made you decide to buy a haunted location?
2 reasons. So the first reason, number one, is that Old South Pittsburgh was the first place that I saw full body apparition. She was a nurse. She was on the 3rd floor. It was really kind of a unique experience where we were up there. We were doing the investigation, and to be really honest with you, and I love this. The hospital was actually pretty dead that night. There wasn't a whole lot of activity going on. Mm-hmm. We went up to the 3rd floor. We were doing our investigation, and out of the corner of my eye, we saw the nurse walk by. It was myself and another gentleman, and she stopped. She looked at us, and then we heard the door open, and then she just disappeared. And I always kind of had a real attachment to Old South Pittsburgh. But that morning, I actually asked the manager of the facility. I said, "Hey, I want to make an offer on this building because it really tugged at the heartstrings. It was a building that really captivated me. Had a lot of experiences there, and it was in pretty bad shape. Right. And I really, really wanted to get in there and fix it up and make it what it needed to be." They declined. They said no. They were making a lot of money out of the building because they weren't putting any money back into the building. So at that point in time, we just kept doing our thing. Then I got wind from an IRS agent that they weren't paying taxes on the building and that it was soon to be auctioned off. So we jumped to the IRS and said, what do we need to do? We ended up purchasing it from the IRS. And what was really, really neat is a lot of people don't know this is the second time. Well, this is the first time. It was about a month away from being demolished completely. The city of South Pittsburgh wanted it gone because of the old owners weren't paying taxes on the building. They weren't paying sales tax. So it was a big black eye for the community and for the city. And so we went in, we promised that we were going to clean her up. We were going to make her look nice again. And that most importantly, we were going to bring tax revenue back into the city of South Pittsburgh.
Right.
With a lot of these little towns, especially South Pittsburgh, Harriman, there's Scotts County Jail. There's a lot of little towns that really depend on that sales tax money to upkeep their roads and their property taxes. And so we promised that we would do things the right way, that we'd pay our taxes and we'd, collect taxes. And they've been happy ever since. And now we're a very, very good standing in the community. The community likes us. We bring a lot of money in. We bring a lot of people from Michigan. I know we've had
Right.
guests from New Zealand out. We've had guests from Europe out.
Oh, nice.
So I mean, yeah. So we have a lot of people who come down to Tennessee, and one of the things that's really neat about that is, as ghost hunters, we bring a lot of tax revenue in. You know, like you said, with dinners and hotels and the amount
Right.
of money that they spend just doing the investigation. So it's a two-part thing where we're not only
Right.
saving a piece of history, but by doing that, we're bringing in tax revenue into the local economy. And that's what's really important to keep these little hospital or these little towns, you know, viable and, you know, bringing money in.
And you save the homes of the spirit.
Well, and that's really important. Well, and you know, one of the things too,
I really believe it's their home. It's their home. It's what they've known for forever. So
right, and we're keeping, because what's really kind of neat is these hospitals are older. You know, it was, like I said, it was born in the 30s, so a lot of the doctors and nurses that worked there in the early ages, like you said, are passing away.
mhm.
And what's really, really neat is that was their home, and there's a legacy that we keep going on with those people, because you know, healthcare is really important to every one of us, and
Right.
without them, you know, we'd all die. And so
Right.
one of the things that's really neat is we kind of keep them, you know, their spirit and their legacy going
Mhm.
by you know, by telling people, yeah, this is where so and so worked and that kind of thing. And then what's really unique is when you're doing an investigation and one of the doctors or nurses that we know that we have on file that work there, you get an EVP from them, or you know, an interaction with them, or their energy or whatever, then you're like, whoa, that's really cool. So yeah, so like you said, it's neat to keep their spirits there and keep them
Right.
active and happy.
Right. Now, when you were cleaning out, when you first acquired the building, and you said you cleaned out 100 tons of stuff, did you find anything worth keeping, like documentation or anything like that?
We unfortunately we didn't, because I'm, I think, the third owner of the hospital. We found some knickknacky stuff, but not really as much as we would have liked to.
Hmm.
The new hospital at OHH, which is in Harriman, we found a lot of good stuff. The hospital in Harriman is a little bit different in that that hospital just closed down and it moved across town. So a lot of the people that worked at that hospital are still alive, still working at
Right.
the hospital. So we're getting a lot of support from people there saying, "Oh yeah, I worked with this doctor." Like one of the really famous nurses there, her name was Joanna. She died of a heart attack. She told all of her coworkers that even after she died, she was going to come to work. And it's really kind of neat hearing some of the stories from her coworkers. And I'll be darned if, like I said, if we're not there and we'll get EVPs from her. She did some things where when she had a bad day, she would throw the charts on the floor, or she had kind of a little bit of a temper. And
Hmm.
we're seeing, you know, some of that activity now that's kind of ingrained into the building and happening. There's a lot of residual there, but there's a lot of intelligent interaction too. So this building has been closed for about 13 years now. It's never been investigated until we purchased it. We had our first couple of groups out the last couple of weeks, and the stuff that they're getting is just amazing. This building is going to rival some of the most popular buildings in the world out there with the activity it's got.
And how did you figure out it was the newer location was haunted? Just
We
from people.
so what had happened, kind of the story about this one is that Leanne had come to me, which is a team member, and she had read a post about this hospital being torn down in Harriman. And what's really, really neat is we got to backtrack about 15 or 16 years, because there's a cool building on the corner that's called the Temperance Building. And it was built in, I want to say, the late 1800s, maybe 1880, 1891. And the whole town is kind of built on the temperance movement, where there was no alcohol, there was no drugs. It was kind of a town that was supposed to be for the betterment of society. And then it turned into a college, and it had a couple of other things. And then at one point in time, it was actually City Hall with a jail in the basement. And so we had actually did an investigation in Tennessee. We went to the legendary Hales Bar and Grill, or Bar and Dam. And then from there, we went over to the Temperance Building. And what was really unique is the hospital was actually open at that
Mhm.
time, 15 years ago. And so everything kind of comes full circle, which is really kind of neat. But we were at the Temperance Building, had some really cool experiences. And then when Leanne brought it to my attention that she said, "Oh, there's a hospital in Harriman that they're about ready to knock down, blah, blah, blah," we got the idea to give the town a call and say, "Hey, let's save it. Let's see what we can do. Let's see if we can bring tax revenue in." It was going to cost the city about $14.1 million to knock it down. And that
Right.
was all on the taxpayer dime. You know, they weren't going to get any state funding or federal funding. It would all have been on the city of Harriman. So we're like, hey, let's give it a shot. We worked with the city, we worked with the industrial board, and we ended up purchasing the hospital. And now we're moving forward with it. And to get back to your question, before we made that purchase, my team and I from Old South Pittsburgh got together and we spent a couple of nights in there investigating. Our first night, there were 8 of us. It was absolutely amazing. We spent about 15 to 20 minutes chasing a man through the building that at one point in time we actually thought, because the building was closed, we thought it was somebody who was a squatter who wasn't supposed to be in there. So we chased him around, and he kind of chased us around in a circle on the second floor where the ORs and the recovery were. Well, then at the end of our chase, we saw him go into a room, and the door opened. We saw him go into the room, and we're like, "Oh, we got him! Well, we walk into the room, and there's only one way in and one way out. And that was the door that he walked into. When the 8 of us walked into that room, he was gone, and there's no possible way he could have got out of that room. So all 8 of us looked at each other like, "Whoa!"
Like, did that just happen?
This was the first night we investigated the building. So what had happened is we talked to City Hall, we got the permission to go in. And before, obviously you're going to make a big purchase like this, we wanted to make sure that there was activity in the building. You don't want to buy something that doesn't have any activity in it.
Right.
That was our first night. There were 8 of us in the building, and it was really kind of cool because it wasn't just a single person who saw this gentleman. It was all 8 of us. Right. I mean, every one of us saw it. We all were looking at each other like, whoa, we got to stop drinking before we go on an investigation. No, I'm just kidding. We don't do that. But it was so vivid, and everybody saw him. So then we got into the serious kind of investigating thing, and we investigated probably, it's 168,000 square feet. And I think we probably investigated maybe 4,000 square feet of it. We never left that second floor area because it was so active every time we go. Intelligent responses with putting numbers down on the floor and having them touch an item next to it to make the item glow. They would do it in series. We heard voices. It's just a really cool active building. And I know we're working with a couple of different studios. The building is in such great shape that they want to do movies in there and that kind of thing. But cool. It's terribly haunted. I mean, to the point where we're working in there. We were putting a roof on a couple of weeks ago, and a couple of us walk up the stairs, and in the doorway is a man standing. And I'm like, oh, here we go. Somebody got in the middle of the night. Well, when we walked up the stairs, we see him kind of nudge, like kind of give us the, I don't know what you call it, like the hey, like acknowledgement. Yeah. And then right before our eyes, he just disappears. And we're all looking at each other like, oh. And this seems to be kind of a recurring thing. I've never been in a building before that's had so many full body apparitions.
Right.
All the time. Like, it's just all the time. It happens all the time. The building is so haunted that the fire department told me when we first bought the building, it didn't have water. So we'd go across the street. The fire department, the police department are right across the street. So we were working in the building. We'd go across the street. We'd use their toilet to go to the washroom. And the fire marshal says, or fire department says to me, "Are you the gentleman who's buying the hospital across the street?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "I will tell you this." He says, "If that building starts on fire, we're going to stand outside with our marshmallows and let it burn down." And I'm like, "Why is that?" He says, "Because everybody on the force is afraid to go in there because they've all had weird experiences in the building." It's like, oh. And then talking to
please don't do that.
But even talking to the police department's the same way. They're like, they patrol. They're really cool. They patrol the building about once every hour. And he says it gets to the point where they will patrol the building and they'll see somebody standing in the middle looking out at them, and they'll flash the flashlight up there. And as soon as they do, it just disappears in the thin air. It's really, really cool. So, I mean, the whole town has had so many experiences with the building.
Right. I don't care how long you've been in the field, but when you see a full body apparition, you're just like in awe every single time. No matter how many times you've seen one, you're just like, oh, that's so cool. Yeah.
Well, and sometimes they manifest so well that you're really fooled, that you don't know if it's a living being or if it's a spirit. Right. And I mean, when you're walking into a new location like we were, when you're looking at something to purchase, you don't know what the history is. You don't know who's been sleeping in there and who's been doing this and who's been doing that. We walk through the building to make sure everything's secured, but that doesn't mean that somebody doesn't have a way in and out. And like I said, that night that we saw that gentleman, we're all just like, it was really awe-inspiring. I mean, we were just all like, holy cow. And like I said, I think what's really neat is, a lot of people have solo kind of, whatever you want to call it, experiences. But when you have a group of people that all see the same thing,
Right.
all at the same time, all it does is to just reinforce that, we're not all crazy, that there's something
Right.
going on.
Absolutely. I love that. That's awesome. So, have you had teams in the new building yet?
We have. The new building's been open for 2 weekends now, and we've had 2 groups. We've got a group this whole weekend there. One thing that's really, really cool is anybody who knows who Richard Estep is. He's he does haunted hospitals, and then he's a paranormal writer. He just is in the process of releasing the Old South Pittsburgh book. So on June 11th, he's actually coming to Harriman to do a ghost hunt and release his book all at the same time. And tickets are on sale on our Facebook page. And it's going to be a great evening.
I think I have heard of his name before.
Richard Estep is an awesome gentleman. Yeah, he lives out in Colorado. He's taught us a bunch of different techniques kind of in the paranormal. But he's the one who does haunted hospitals. He does a lot of stuff, a lot of book writing. He does paranormal. He does murders, that kind of stuff writing. Really intelligent gentleman. Really fun to investigate with.
Hi, Heather. It's okay if you're late. We still have a half an hour left.
Hey, Heather. Heather's one of the volunteers at both locations. She's quite the amazing workhorse, I will tell you.
Now, you had mentioned that you had to go across the street to use the bathroom and stuff. Do you still have to do that, or do you?
No.
It's up to code now.
Yes, yeah. Well, there is really no code in the state of Tennessee to have electric and water because what our permit is we're I forgot what the usage is, but it's basically it's not a full commercial usage building. I forgot the permit they give to us. But just for people who are doing overnights, we do have electricity and we do have potty now. I will tell you, every one of my volunteers is like, thank God. Sometimes running across the street when you got to go to the washroom is kind of a pain in the butt. So yeah, we got flushing toilets, we have electricity, we have a crew room, we have a break room, we have a microwave, we have all that good stuff. So yeah.
Well, it's probably a little warmer in Tennessee than it is here in Michigan. So
yeah, the building right now, the interior temperature of the building, I think is in the low 70s. But yeah, once it gets a little bit warmer up there, it does get warm. You'll see a lot of us running around in shorts and t-shirts, obviously.
Well, I was like, it's funny because you had mentioned before, and I don't know if it was before we got on the live or if it was after, but you had mentioned about investigating when it's cold and stuff, and it's so hard to investigate in buildings when it's cold. Clearly, living in Chicago before, but even investigating in the heat though, it's just like, sometimes you can't think what do I even ask? I'm so hot, I don't even know what to ask anymore.
I think to be honest with you, I think as a paranormal investigator myself, I think that the buildings are more active when it's colder. I think the air is drier. I think that there's a lot more activity when it's drier. So I don't like the cold myself. And it's really funny because I still run around in shorts in Tennessee when everybody else is shivering and freezing because of my Chicago blood. But I will tell you, I think our buildings are way more active in the middle of winter than they are in the middle of summer. And I think a lot of that has to do with the dry air. I think there's a lot more static electricity in the air so that the spirits can utilize that. But yeah, I think the winter months are crazy active. Summer months are active too, but I think the actual, when I see a lot of the things I see versus what I hear, a lot of it has to do with, usually winter, spring, and fall. I think the summer months, I think we get a lot of EVPs and a lot of other things. But I really, really think that the full body apparitions and that kind of thing, I think is really crazy when it's a little cooler outside. Just my personal opinion. I don't have much to back it up.
No, but that's a good theory. I never thought of that though, with the dry air, and all that.
Well, the air is humid and it's real heavy. It's heavy in the summer. And if anybody's been to Tennessee, they know it's real humid in Tennessee. In June, July. Well, not so much June, but July, August, September. And it gets. And I think there's a lot. I think the spirits have a hard time using the energy out of the atmosphere because you've got so much humidity that it's not as easy for them.
Right.
Whereas when it's cooler and drier, there's a lot of I mean, you know how dry your hair gets in the middle of winter.
Oh yeah.
It stands up. I think that's primarily just because it's a lot drier and there's a lot more energy in the air than there is in the middle of summer.
Yeah, it's funny because I have a best guy friend. He's been trying to get me and my family to move down to Louisiana. I was like, I don't know if I could handle the humidity down there.
You know, I coming from Chicago to Tennessee, I think me at my age, I like the heat a little bit more than the cold because, you know, when you get warm, you just go take a shower and it kind of goes away. But once you get that bone chilling cold into you,
oh yeah,
you know, and then you got the snow involved and I don't know. I would prefer the heat. There's just so much more you can do when it's hot out than when you can when it's cold.
Oh, for sure. I don't like winters anymore. I don't enjoy it. I mean, the snow is beautiful. Don't get me wrong. It's beautiful. I just don't like shoveling it anymore. I don't like it. I don't I don't like driving in it. Nope, I'm good. I'll be moving when I'm older. I'll be like one of those snowbirds that goes away and lives somewhere else for 6 months.
No, you got to move now while you're younger so you can enjoy it.
Well, if the prices of things would go down, I might be able to, but until then, no.
Isn't that the truth?
Well, and then I got kids. I got to wait till they're done with high school because they already told me they're not leaving their friends. Okay. Well, you can stay with them and I'll move. I'll pay you room and board.
Oh, there you go.
But anywho, all right. So, now what are some of the you talked about the now I'm not going to be able to say
apparitions.
Yeah, that thing. Sorry, I'm getting a little tired. It's that time of night. What other things have you discovered in the buildings that some of your favorite activities that happened in either of the buildings?
I would say probably one of the favorite things that happens, which I know a lot of people have had that experience with. We have a doctor. His name is Dr. Vishton Taylor. He was one of the original founding doctors of Old South Pittsburgh Hospital. The man was absolutely amazing. He graduated in the top third of his class. I'm sorry, in the top 3% of his class I can't think of the name of it now. I'm having a blank. The one that's in Nashville, big university, the Vanderbilt. He graduated from Vanderbilt. He was an original doctor of the hospital. Back when these hospitals were actually open and operating, remember the days where you could smoke in a hospital?
Oh, yeah.
Doctors would walk down. I mean, it was like they'd walk down the hall smoking. Well, Dr. Vishton Taylor would smoke a pipe. And most of the pictures that we have of him, anything to do with South Pittsburgh, he would be smoking a pipe. He worked anywhere from 18 to 20 hours a week, or 18 to 20 hours a day. The man he was Old South Pittsburgh. I mean, he was probably the driving force behind the health of that building. And even after he had retired, if you can call it retirement, he would come to the hospital even in his retirement days and check on patients, check on the other doctors, just kind of check on the overall health of the building, how it was going. One of the things that started happening probably about a year and a half ago is that you will be in the building and all of a sudden you'll see this big puff of smoke and then you'll smell it. And what was really unique is that it started happening, like I said, about a year and a half ago. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that my staff and I have been really, really talking about the doctors and the nurses that made Old South Pittsburgh what it is back then and what it is still today. I think he kind of came out of retirement from his job as well. But he walks the halls and he spends a lot of time in what's called the Tri-City Clinic. It's kind of the oldest portion of the hospital. But you'll literally be sitting there and all of a sudden you'll smell it. And then you do a flashlight up and you'll just see this big cloud of smoke. That's awesome. I've been patted down by guests. One of the guests asked me if I would take my clothes off because he thought it was coming from me. And I was like, if we need to go in the bathroom and you want me to strip down. But no, it's one of the phenomena that I have never experienced before in the paranormal. And this happens pretty much on a regular occasion where you'll be walking down and he literally will check you out. I mean, we'll be doing our investigation. We'll be doing a public we'll have 20 people in the ER waiting area, and all of a sudden somebody go, "Oh, do you smell that?" And they'll turn their flashlight on, and the whole room is just full of his smoke. What was really, really unique about this is his daughter is still alive. And somebody reached out to his daughter and asked him what he was smoking. He smoked a very particular type of smoke, which was called rabbit tobacco, which is now illegal. From my understanding, I've never smoked a pipe before, but it gave you a little bit of a buzz.
Right.
It did have a little bit of a buzz to it. And when we had talked about it, when we had found out about it, we had asked his daughter, and his daughter said yes, that's what he smoked. And we had somebody who was actually in the building who confirmed that that's what that smell was. It's kind of a real sweet mapley syrup kind of smelling like tobacco. And then we'll have other guests who will come in, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, that's it. And they'll be like, "Oh, who's vaping in here?" And we're like, "Nobody. We don't allow smoking or vaping in the building."
Right.
So we get people like, "Oh." And there's been a lot of groups who have actually who have actually caught it on video. And one of them is actually a group out of Chattanooga that they were doing it, and they caught the whole incident on video. And they're still, to this very day, I'll talk to them every once in a while, and they're still perplexed on how it happens. It almost happens like pretty much on command. I mean, if you call him and say, "Hey, come on out, we need your help," he'll kind of make the trip over to the ER. So it's really kind of neat.
Now,
I've never experienced that before.
Has his daughter been to the hospital at all?
His daughter will not come to the hospital, and I don't blame her because it is her father,
Right.
So it's kind of a weird situation for her. I know Leanne and I believe Brooke have talked to her via phone and through messaging. And I know that she, like I said, she has confirmed it. But he and his wife are both buried. They were both cremated and buried like 3 blocks from the hospital.
Okay.
Right at one of the churches over there. So even, like I said, even past, his life, he's still a South Pittsburgh native, his
Right.
ashes, and him and his wife were
Right.
buried in the area. But he took a lot of pride in the hospital. I mean, it
Right.
was baby from start to finish. And I get it. I understand why he's there. He's pretty much checking up on us. I think one of the things that he really, really is checking up on is to make sure that my staff and I are keeping the legacy going, and most importantly, telling the truth about the hospital.
Oh, absolutely.
We're not running around telling, wives' tales and this, that, whatever. One of the things I found in some locations, especially OSPH before we owned it, is they really glamorized a lot of things. And a lot of things they glamorized weren't true. They were trying to sell the building, to
Right.
make people come, to get people scared and that kind of thing. And our team and I take a different approach. We know the building's haunted. We know the building's extremely active, and we know the building does what it needs to do on its own. So we do the opposite. We kind of tell people that we know who's here. We know who's walking the walls. We give them, the tools they need to, reach out to the doctors and nurses and some of the staff that we knew who are there. And you'd be surprised how many of our staff, past staff, we'll spend a couple hours talking to you, via
Right.
EPs or via whatever technique you're using. Since we have done that, I think the pride is back. And I think a lot of these staff members are realizing that, hey, we're keeping their legacy going, and we want to tell our stories.
Now, the spirits that you do know their names and stuff, do you have documentation that they've been there, or is it just that other teams, multiple teams have picked up on that spirit themselves?
Oh no, we got documentation. We have documentation on some of our spirits. I have their death records. I do. There was a list of doctors and nurses that you like that. I think that's kind of cool too. Kind of looks that eerie kind of thing going on. But yeah, we do. One of the things that we have done is that we want to make sure that the stories that we're telling are true. So when a guest will come to us and they'll say, "Hey, do you know?" And I'll give you an example. There was a young lady. Her name was Betty. She was a nurse in the hospital. She was a heavy-set woman of color. She had a heart attack and she died in the bathroom behind the nurses' station. This was something that was told to myself even before owning the building and all of their stuff. And there were teams out there who have contacted her. So one of the things that my team and I did is before we started telling Betty's story, we wanted to make sure that what we heard was real. So we went to the Historical Society. We went to, and we got her death records. We found out that this was one of the true things that they told us. Like I said, she had a heart attack. She had passed away in front of the door, and it took them about a half hour to get her out of there because of the way she fell between the door and the toilet. Since then, they removed the door. The door has been reversed, so you won't have that happen. But those are the things that we wanted to make sure as a team and as a building owner, that when somebody came to us and said, hey, so-and-so, we talked to so-and-so, and this is what they said through EVPs or whatever, we wanted to make sure that we had the proper evidence to either support their EVPs or say, hey, you're talking to somebody different, because that's not what we know of them.
Right. And that, I think, is very important to find, as best as you can, find out the names. Because I know, like, for Waverly Hills, that's what Denise and Ernie Peck have been trying to do, is tell the true stories of the spirits. And I think that's important that you're doing that, because then you're, because sometimes it's like we go into these buildings and you get a name, even if you're a gifted, person, and you'll get a name and you're like, well, how, I've had people tell me, well, how do you know that? I'm like, because they're telling me that, but I can't really go at that moment, go looking through some records to try to find a name, especially when you come up with a name and then, the hospital is over 150 years old and built in the late 1800s. And you're like, yeah, there was no records, that you're going to find back then.
Well, I think one of the coolest things in the world about what you had just said about somebody who's gifted is, and I mean no offense to anybody, because there are a lot of gifted people out there. I've met them, but there's a lot of people out there who pretend to be gifted.
Oh yeah.
And they'll walk in the door, and we try not to give a lot of information, but we've had somebody who was channeling Betty not too long ago and was completely wrong. I mean, just so far off. And we're all kind of just shaking our heads going, no, that's not, it's not, it's not who you're talking to. And so it's really important. But like a really good, as anybody knows OSPH, there was a gentleman in the hospital. His name was Jim. After the building had closed down, Jim was the caretaker to the building. He had an apartment down there, and he was one of the spirits that was in the building. He's always been there, even since I've been investigating before owning the building. But the things that were being said about him by people was just so off. And when you walked into his apartment area, you felt anger. You felt, just a lot of terrible feelings. And one of my team members, her name is, I'm going to forget her name, is Candace, and we went through his whole life in about 3 days at a hotel room. I don't think either one of us slept for the 3 days. But when Jim had passed away, he had left his whole life in OSPH. We went through probably 2,000 or 3,000 emails, documentation from him, genealogy, relationships. And when we realized that the stories that were being told about Jim were 100% false, and we started telling the truth about Jim, now you walk into his apartment and he's a playful spirit. He'll goof around with the girls. He's a musician. Like if you play some music, he'll do things. I know that one night, and this is something that's incredible that we've never had happen before, we had an a cappella team. So if you've ever been to OSPH, in his apartment, he was such a musician that he actually built sound studios down there. Nice. It was really cool. And in the sound studios, his goal was to produce music. Jim passed away before he had the chance to do that. He actually died of diabetic insulin shock. I forgot what the exact thing was, but he basically was a diabetic and passed away. Right. But what was really cool about it is that, I forgot where I was going with this. But what was really cool about this is we had an a cappella club who had come in to do an investigation, and they went into one of Jim's studios and they started singing. Now, remember, an a cappella club is all typically women with real high-pitched voices. Right. It's the upper end of the musical spectrum, and I'm not a musician, so hopefully I explained that right.
Yes.
But they were running an EVP while they were doing this song. And in the background, you can hear a man singing very low, and I don't know what the octave he was, but he was singing a lot lower than the girls, but you could hear him singing with the girls.
Probably baritone.
and we believe it was Jim, and it was he was real playful. You can hear the EVP went on for I forgot what it was, a couple of minutes. And he was in the EVP for a good 30, 35 seconds, just singing along with the girls. And I know they played it back and they played it to me. I'm like, oh, come on. There had to be a guy with you. They're like, nope, it was just us women in there. And I mean, you can hear his voice is solid.
That's awesome.
It was really, really cool. But like I said, since we've kind of cleaned up, the rumors about him,
Right.
he's been amazing. Like
Right.
you'll go in there, and if you put a REM pod down and you play some CCR, you play some classic music, he'll tap into the beat of the music. You'll hear him humming, you'll hear him singing. But it's really, really neat. I think that's something that's really important with building owners, is to make sure, like, what Ken just said, to validate what you have in the building or who's in the building.
Right.
You don't have people coming in because, you know what, I'm a pretty easygoing guy, but if somebody is constantly saying bad things about me in my past life, you're damn right I'm gonna like make sure that
Oh yeah.
I'm angry about it.
Right. Absolutely.
That's really bad. That's one of the things about the paranormal that I don't like is that there's groups that go in and they provoke or they do something, and they shouldn't do that. I think that you need to go in and you need to be more positive and you need to be more supportive of that person in the afterlife, because they're here for a reason. They're telling the story even after they're dead. And I think that, like I said, Jim was very important. He put his heart and soul in the OSPH when he was the caretaker there. He built those studios, and I think a lot of him is still in that building, and I think he wants to share. And I think he's got unfinished business. I think he wants to, I think he still wants to produce music.
Right. Well, when I come, I don't sing. I mean, I sing in like the shower singer. I'm a closet singer. I'm not very good at it. I want to be good at it. So we'll sing with him when we come there. I'll be like, Jim, I'm not good. You have to teach me. Come teach me.
I try singing, but it usually costs me thousands of dollars in glass because I can't sing at all.
Well, thank you, Greg. I appreciate it. And Ken said, or Ace, I always read his name, but he goes by Ace. Ronnie, you are in this for the right reasons. The afterlife in those buildings are lucky to have you. And that's, and that all that's involved. Yeah, I mean, I really think too, like you said, when you do tell their stories of the important stuff and that they do come more alive, and I think that's great. That's awesome.
Well, and I think Jim, when he was alive, didn't get the recognition he
deserved.
Thank you,
Greg.
He really didn't get the recognition he deserved. And I think my team and I are doing a great job of saying, hey, Jim, you know what? The things that you did when you were alive was amazing, and we want to keep that going. And I think that's what's really important. Like I said, I think that's what separates our group from a lot of other groups out there is when we buy a building, the paranormal does pay the bills. I mean, that's what, keeps the world on and all their stuff. But really, we want to keep that history alive, and we want to keep the legacy of people alive. And that's important.
Especially nowadays, because now all the history seems like it's getting taken down and you can't talk about it and this and that. And it's like, really? Because that's what brought us here today was our history. We wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the things that happened in the past. So why not talk about it? But apparently you can't do that anymore in this world.
Well, and there's so many great people out there. There's so many great people out there who, when they were alive, didn't get the recognition they deserved. I mean,
absolutely.
How many people have gone back to their hospital after they had COVID and thanked the nurse for keeping them alive?
Right.
We take that for granted a lot, but those women and men, I mean, they work their butts off to keep us alive.
Sure. Oh, for sure.
And that's really important, is recognition, and a lot of that goes, it goes unrecognized, and that's something that I think, we as paranormal investigators, especially somebody who owns a hospital or, like you said, a tuberculosis center like Waverly Hills or something like that, where there were hundreds of people that kept people like us alive. Those are the ones who really, really need to be recognized. It's not the people who are making rap music. It's the people who are keeping society going and going strong.
Absolutely. Now, have you had any like TV crews come through your buildings or anything, like being as active as they are, like want to do a TV show or anything like that?
With OSPH, we had Kindred Spirits there, and we had Destination Fear. With the new building, I'm not allowed to say, but we did have a couple of groups come through, or a couple of TV shows that just filmed recently. They should be out in fall. And then we have, what's really, really cool is PBS is actually doing a documentary on, especially they're doing a documentary on hospitals. And Harriman was one of the hospitals that they have chosen to do kind of the past, the middle, and the future of the hospital.
Right.
And they're like, they did interviews with a couple of my staff members and that kind of thing. So we're on a PBS show, which is really kind of cool.
That's awesome.
But yeah, we the other thing that, like we were telling before too, is that we want the hospital to be utilized for more than just paranormal. We want it to be utilized. I know that prior to me owning it, the Harriman Hospital has been used for a couple of what do you call it, doctors, nurses shows, that kind of a thing.
Right.
Like I said, we want to keep that history alive. We want to keep the building nice and healthy.
Right.
And make sure that the local people that are still alive, that were in the hospital, are getting the recognition that they deserve too. Because they're not in that hospital anymore, they're still saving lives down the road. And that's really important to us, that they, get the recognition too.
Yeah. Ace and I were the caretakers for the historical Detroit 6th precinct, which the owner just recently passed away about 5 months ago. And I keep telling him, like, Ed, tell me when to play the lottery and I'll play it so I can buy your building. Because it's one of those that it really is a historical site. I mean, the Purple Gang went through there. They had the, I think it was the 68 riots or whatever. There was riots that, at one point, from the bottom of the barrel to the top of the chain were all fired in one day because they were so corrupted,
Wow.
So like there's some major history in this building, and I would absolutely love to buy it.
Well, we should talk after the show, because you never know what we might be.
I would totally love to buy it.
But I will tell you now, I am not going to Michigan. I don't care what Tim Allen says about how nice it is or whatever that is. I'm
right,
sure
his Pure Michigan ads. I never knew. It's funny. I never knew that was Tim Allen's voice on all the Pure Michigan ads. I was like, until like about a couple years ago, I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Of course, it would be him.
I mean, it is a beautiful state. I love flying over it, looking down. My body really likes the warm weather.
Yeah, I mean, I used to like when we had 4 seasons. Now we have 2.
I don't think
summer and winter.
Yeah, but I don't think anybody's got 4 seasons anymore. I mean, Tennessee was like 50 degrees last week. It's 90 down there now.
Yeah, I mean, we literally get one day of spring and one day of fall, and that's it. It goes from winter for 6 months and summer for 3.
Right.
Well,
and I think it's getting confusing too, because even if you notice, you'll get 80 degrees on like a week, and then the next week it's 30 degrees. And then it's back up to 80 the week after that. I think the trees and the animals are going, oh, what's going on here?
Well, that's like this week. It's in the mid 80s all week, and then next week it's going to be in the mid 50s. So it's like, really, it's like I just turned my air on, because it's getting too hot. And so, but yeah, so it's the weather's just crazy around here. And then of course I don't like Darren asked about my eyes, because I had posted about my eyes before. I've never had I have seasonal allergies, but I've never had them where they affected my eyes like they are right now.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay, because they make fun of me in the South because we were driving. I don't know where we went, but we all went somewhere. We parked the car. I got out of the car, and the whole top of the car is filled with yellow.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, where's all that yellow dirt? I've never seen that before. I'm like, where's all this yellow dirt?
Pollen.
They're all laughing at me, going, "That's pollen, dumbass." I'm like, oh. Oops.
The only reason I know that is because I have a friend that lives in Raleigh, North Carolina, and he posts pictures all the time, and I was like, oh no. And I always wanted, some odd reason, I wanted to move to Cary, North Carolina, which is just outside of Raleigh, and found out my twin sister wanted to move there too, and I was like, okay, that's weird, because we've never been there ever in our life, but we both wanted to move to North Carolina. I was like, oh, okay, you're the reason why I had to go there. But neither one of us moved there. We're still here in Michigan, obviously.
With Tim Allen.
But yeah, so he posted pictures of the pollen. And I was like, yep, glad I don't live there, because I would probably be blown up like a balloon right now.
It's really weird though, because up north, when I'm in Chicago, I have the same allergies. When I'm down south, I don't have those same allergies.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what the difference is.
This
but
is
I
the
don't know.
first. This is actually the first year that my eyes have been like, I thought I had pink eye, and I went to the doctor twice now, and they've given me drops, and it's not even helping. They're like, take Zyrtec, and I'm like, okay, I don't feel that's helping either. But they're like, if it doesn't heal, go to the eye doctor. I'm like, okay, just allergies. I need the trees to stop bluing.
Right.
Well, we'll be all good. A said, good show. We'll come visit. Crystal said, true crime shows.
Yeah, that's I
That'd
think
be cool.
really filmed in there.
That'd be really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. I'm happy that you were on the show because I definitely will be bringing my teams out there because it sounds like they are two wonderful locations. So now, what do you charge? Okay, because we have 4 minutes left. What do you charge for your locations?
Okay, so if you go to Old South Pittsburgh Hospital, it's from 6 p.m. until 4 a.m. and it's $659 because the state tax is in there. And that is for up to 8 people. So basically it works out to be about $85 a person, I think. And that's 68,000 square feet. You get most of the building. There's 2 locations in the building that we have closed off for safety's sake because we're working on them. And then Harriman is 168,000 square feet. So keep in mind that we talked about this before, is that Waverly Hills is 186,000 square feet.
Uh-huh.
We're just a little smaller than Waverly Hills.
Wow.
Harriman is a city block. It's really cool. So when you're sitting in the old ORs and you look down the hallway, it is literally a city block. It goes as far as the eye can see.
Nice.
So that's 168,000 square feet. We do the same time frame. It's from 6 p.m. until 4 a.m. and that's $850 for 8 people. So it works out to be a little over $100 a person, which is about in line with that size of a building. And that building is amazing because that building, you can actually see the transformation in it from the 30s to all the additions to the 90s.
Cool.
The building was born in the 30s, in the late 30s, and then you can see when they put on the 50s, the 70s, and the 90s, and you can see the different transition times by the heating vents. We still have 2 OR rooms that have green tiles in them. All the OR lights are in there. It's a really unique building, and that it's
awesome.
really in great shape. Like I said, they do a lot of filming in there for major TV shows.
Right.
So it's really like a time capsule when you walk into the building. The downstairs has got marble. It's got marble nurses stations in it. Really a cool location. So
awesome. Yeah, they that would be cool to do because I like as a kid you hated history. Now I love it. I love going in and looking at how the building, the different designs of the buildings, and wow, you don't see that anymore.
Right.
The different, and to just kind of step back in time and go, I wonder how long it took them to actually do all this work because they didn't have the tools like we have now, Well,
what's really unique about Harriman too is Harriman, a lot of us when we go to the hospital, we go in sick. You go in, you got a broken leg or whatever, and you don't get to see the behind the scenes where the doctors, you don't really remember what an operating room looks like because you're knocked out, you're on anesthetic.
Right.
Well, in Harriman, you can actually go behind the scenes of where the doctors and nurses go, and the recovery room is all intact. The ORs are all intact. So when you're walking in there, you get the opportunity to actually be kind of firsthand in terms of what it looked like if you were a doctor or a nurse, and you were going in to be operated on.
That's cool.
So, and that's what I think is really neat about Harriman is the fact that, I've been in the hospital. I'm a hockey player. I've been in the hospital a lot of times with bumps, bruises, broken, this, that, whatever. And I've really never remembered what the hospital looked like because, like I said, you go in, you're skirted in the operating room, they fix you up, and you're in recovery. And next thing you know, you're back home. This gives you the opportunity to actually see all of the different areas of the emergency room and the operating rooms and the recovery rooms. And so it's really kind of a unique building.
Well, I just want to say thank you very much for being on the show, and thank you for everybody watching and all the new folks that I got to meet tonight. Thank you again for joining us. I will not be on the show next week because I will be going to a paranormal lecture. So it'll be my first time for that one, so it'll be cool. And in 2 weeks, we'll have Angie, I think it's Durham, from Bell Mansion. So I think that'll be cool. And I appreciate you being on the show. Learned a lot, and we will definitely have to save and come out to see you, but we will definitely make it out there some point because it definitely sounds like a great location. So appreciate everybody. Stay tuned. There is the Goose Show next, I believe. So see you guys in a couple weeks. Thank you. Bye, everyone.